Have you ever had a moment in life where you just felt as though something wasn't right? Maybe you stepped into a parking lot late at night, or you just had this negative feeling around meeting someone new and you just couldn't put your finger on why. This sense or deep innate feeling is called our intuition. Just like many of you, I've encountered many moments in my life where I have turned to my intuition. When I met Cairo at his rescue, my inner voice said, "This jerk right here, he's the one." When meeting new people, my inner voice says one of two things. It either says, "Keep 6 feet away from this imbecile at all times, at all possible times," or it says, "This human right here, I like them. We're going to keep them around." It has helped me escape a corn maze in a hailstorm, and most recently when my boyfriend surprised me with a trip to a spa for a girls' day out with my best friend, my inner voice whispered ever so deviantly, "He's going to propose." So, our instinct, it's also known as our intuition. It is our oldest, most innate decision-making ability. When this happens, it's an immediate understanding without the need to actually reason with yourself. As a culture, we have learned to believe that now rationality is what really should be used to drive all decisions. To make all decisions, from everything from business mergers to what should we eat for lunch. But what about that inner voice, your gut feeling, that little something from deep within that helps you figure out how you feel between all those layers of logic? I believe it's important to get back to the basics and to get in touch with this inner sense of self. It's important for us to understand 3 things. What is gut instinct, or what is intuition? Why listening to this voice is important, and how we can train ourselves to increase the volume of this internal voice. So, what do I mean by instinct, gut feeling, and intuition? Instinct is our innate sense toward a particular behavior. So it's not learned, it's just an immediate reaction. A gut feeling, or we also call it a hunch, it's a sensation that appears quickly in consciousness. It's noticeable enough that we can act on it if we decide to. But just as quickly as it appears, it goes away immediately. And we don't always understand the underlying reasons for this feeling that we have. Finally, intuition is a process. It gives us the ability to know something directly without actually reasoning logically. It bridges the gap between your unconscious and conscious parts of your mind. It's also that fine line between instinct and reason. It's the subconscious catalog of life experiences so far. It's also important to tell the difference between anxiety and instinct, because sometimes the difference between the two doesn't always make sense. So the best way to tell the difference is instinct is an immediate reaction to a sudden situation. There's no emotion involved. For example, when I was caught in that hailstorm, to find my way out, I didn't know really where I was going. My body was just on autopilot. It was going left, left, right, right. And it took us, honestly, less than half the time to get out than it did to get to where we were. The brain is just an intense thing. Anxiety is a nagging sense of a nagging sense that won't go away. There's always going to be emotion attached to it. So why is paying attention to our gut instinct important? Instinctive feelings can be paired with rationality to aid in better decision making. For example, when you finish an exam and you're flipping through the pages to make sure that you answered all the questions and just to kind of double check. Let's say as you're going through, you're drawn back time and time again to a particular question. Let's say question 13, and you're questioning whether or not you really want to stick with selection B. Spoiler alert, you should probably change that answer. It's that sense of self is telling you this isn't the right thing. You know, your conscious mind may not understand why it's not right, but your subconscious is saying, hey, man, we need to change this. Instinct is also encoded in our brain like a web of fact and feeling. So let's think of the common phrase, we don't behave like animals, right? It tells us that the difference between humans and animals is the fact that we have this ability to reason with our impulses. And the moral of the story is that we're better than animals, because reason is a higher ability to have. But the thing is that not only are we like animals, we are animals. Just we are the particular animals that have the advantage of having both instinct and reason at our disposal. So now that we have all of this figured out, how on earth do we include intuition in our everyday life? First, it's important to identify your core beliefs. You need to create an internal dialogue with your conscious and unconscious parts of your mind. Be honest with yourself. The best way you can do this is to create a journal. Writing your thoughts and feelings down on paper. Even if you think you have little to say, it kind of helps the non-conscious mind open up. You need to also turn off your inner critic. Oftentimes, we rationalize away your internal voice. This time, when it speaks up, listen without judgment. Allow that inner dialogue to happen naturally and freely without ridicule. The last thing that's important to do is to find a solitary place. You need to find some place that you can sort of go to silently get in touch with your feelings. It should really be a place that will allow feelings to stir that are within and they don't have any intellectual or rational reasoning. All in all, the consciousness is an expert at the consciousness. What is that? The conscious is an expert at logic, and your mind will use it relentlessly. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the unconscious mind searches through the past, the present, and the future, and it connects with hundreds of feelings in such an intense way that its process is cryptic to your logical mind. Instinct is our subconscious catalog of our life experiences that we've had thus far. It's our oldest and purest uncorrupted sense of self. And when it comes to getting in touch with this internal voice, never forget that practice makes perfect. The exercises that I discussed should aid in creating a new, deeper relationship with yourself. It'll help to clarify the inner voice and allow you to bring your true instinctual awareness back into your everyday life. Give yourself time to become aware of your feelings and understand that while your inner voice may not always make sense right away, it's not speaking without context. You can pair it with logical rationale to bring your subconscious, and conscious balance into your life. Lastly, trusting your gut is an age-old piece of advice for a reason. And that reason being, your gut instinct is usually right.